Alright, firstly, I would like to apologize for the quality of this video. I was unable to go to high school for the last 2 days, so I'm unable to use a green screen. I'm recording this from home as I'm recovering from pneumonia. I have my trusty cold medicine here that I will be swigging the entire time. Actually, my doctor recommended not to take suppressants while you have pneumonia because you're supposed to get this stuff out, but... Oh, it's so viscous. Oh, why did I do that? Oh, the crumbs. As well as various other things to help me throughout this. Alright, that's the only explanation I'm going to give. Let's get this over with. In 2022 alone, 20,000 people died from firearms, nearly double the amount in 2014, which was 12,000. Current American laws are ineffective at addressing gun violence, and we need change at a national level. Changes I'm vying for are the implementation of a firearms licensing system, standardized mental health evaluations, better tracking of firearm ownership. First, let us go over the history of firearm legality in the United States. In 1791, the Second Amendment was ratified with the American Bill of Rights into law. Now, there's a great gap for firearm legislation until the 1900s because America was manifesting its destiny, and weapons consisted of repeaters, trapdoor rifles, still using muskets, things like that. In 1934, the National Firearms Act went into place, which was a response to mobsters concealed carrying things like submachine guns, shotguns, and shooting police officers and other mobsters. It required 16-inch rifles and 14-inch barrels on shotguns. The 1968 Gun Control Act requires firearm vendors to have a license and to make prohibited persons from buying firearms, like such as criminals who've committed crime with a gun. In 1993, the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act included the use of background checks on criminals to make sure they couldn't buy firearms, as well as a waiting period between buying guns. And then in 1994, the federal assault weapons ban went into effect, which we all know, and then it obviously expired in 2004. Now, let's look at firearm death statistics. In 2014, there were 12,356 deaths, while in 2024, there were 21,608. This was a 70% increase in deaths. There was an 85% increase in injuries, a 25% increase in accidents, a whopping 124% increase in mass shootings, and a 13% increase in suicides. Now, official data from the National Vital Statistics System certainly undercounts firearm accidents when the victim is shot by another person, meaning that this number of the accidents should be way higher. U.S. homicide rates are 25 times higher than other high-income countries, according to a Harvard research study. Now, I'm going to talk about the ease of access for purchasing a firearm. I personally went to the Hawk Shop in downtown Port Huron and got myself a copy of ATF Form 4473, and I looked at it, and the only thing security-wise that is on that paper is just a bunch of checkboxes. Literally. One of the checkboxes included is, do you smoke marijuana? Because marijuana is still illegal on the federal level despite being legal in Michigan. I could get half of my family 10 years in jail, as well as a $250,000 fine because they lied on their ATF Form 4473 for smoking pot, as well as a myriad of other things that they do not check for. They just have you check a singular box on the paper. Now I'm going to talk about firearm loopholes, which make it even easier to purchase a firearm. First, there are straw purchases, which is where someone who can legally buy a firearm buys a firearm for someone who is ineligible to. Let's say one of your friends is a convicted felon and unable to purchase a firearm. Then you go and buy a firearm for yourself, and then you go and give it to him. That would be a straw purchase, and if that was found out, you would be indicted for it. Next is the gun show loophole, which allows private citizens to sell or to purchase firearms from private sellers, where all you need to do is fill out a simple transfer form and hand over the cash, no background check needed. Next is the Charleston loophole, which was actually used by Dylan Wolf to commit the Charleston church shooting, where it gets its namesake. The Charleston loophole is that after 3 days of a background check not being completed, the firearms dealer can just give you the gun. No matter if it's gone through, they can just still hand it to you while that background check is pending, effectively eliminating it. Next is the boyfriend loophole, which it's not really a loophole, it's more of like a condition where it exempts abusers who haven't been married. Like, let's say it's your girlfriend and you commit some sort of violence against her. You wouldn't be restricted from purchasing a firearm despite you still committing a violent act because your relationship isn't serious enough. Firstly, I would like to apologize for my change of dress. I took a shower as I felt my throat starting to hurt and my stomach starting to hurt even more from the pneumonia slowly winning and my stomach hurting from the copious amount of cough syrup that I've been putting in my body to try and make my voice sound okay throughout this entire thing. I also realized that I'm running low on time, so I'm going to summarize my last 2 slides and then talk about this here, my proposed change. In my second to last slide, I talked about how the fastest firing firearm at the time of the Founding Fathers, please say that 5 times fast to yourself, I found it funny, was the Kalthoff repeater. It shot at a rounds per minute of 45. Compare that to the average M4 platform rifle of nowadays, which shoots at anywhere from between 740 and 970 rounds per minute. That is a 2,055% increase in speed. I was also going to talk about how we create entire organizations for new inventions like cars, new inventions like radio, telecommunications, given entire rights to groups of people. And the Second Amendment hasn't really changed that much, and we haven't really changed the processes because there's so many holes of cheese in it. The next thing I was going to talk about is how the ATF is a completely incompetent agency and they proceed over 2 entirely separate things than firearms, so that firearms are not even their main concern, and that we need an organization that completely focuses on firearm rules in America and proceeds over things like that. Look up Ruby Ridge. Look up the Fast and Furious disaster that happened. Yes, that's the real name. The ATF has completely failed at its job for the last 40 years. And now we have the proposed changes, which is introduce a mental health screening requirement when you first purchase your firearm, and then checkups when you purchase any subsequent firearms from there. So you just go into a therapist, they make sure you don't have any mental issues like anger issues, they make sure you're not depressed or going through times of hardship like a divorce. Next, require documenting transfer of ownership, as in, let's say you're a grandfather trying to sell to or give your gun to a grandson. You would need to do that transfer through an FFL dealer and get it basically approved. Well, not really approved, like put in the system of the ATF so that they can track that firearm. Universal firearm carry and purchase license. If I would need a license and training to use a 2-ton hunk of steel to drive down the road, I should require a license and training to use a tiny piece of steel that fits in my pocket that both kill people. Create a specialized firearm governmental organization. Once again, the ATF is incompetent at their jobs, completely suck, and we need to get rid of the F in ATF so they're just the AT. Next, plug any and all loopholes. That's pretty self-explanatory. I'm probably way over time, but thank you all.